Hey, good afternoon, Clear Lake peeps. Ross England with Clear Lake Guide Service with a fishing report and report of other nonsense for the sake of nothing else. Hopefully we can hear some yipping and yapping as Larry's up front fishing. Okay, water conditions. Water conditions really haven't changed. We're sitting right now trying to kind of stay out of some wind late in the day, and we can see about 1.5 feet. We were down south for a while today and the other day, and we could see bottom at 7 and 8 feet. But if there was a beer can down there, I couldn't tell you what brand beer it was. So it's not that clear. There may be some areas that it is that I just haven't seen yet. So that's the clarity issue. Water temperature right now, it's 5 o'clock and it's 63 degrees where we're sitting. I think it started out at 60 where we started at the county park this morning. So what I've seen since last Friday was afternoon highs around 61 to 63. I've heard some people talk about 65 and 66, and that could be in some areas that are really protected. I haven't seen any of those temps, but like today, it's sunny. If you're out of the wind and in this water that's a little bit stained, it's going to warm up a little bit quicker. So our morning lows, we've had a couple of really low 40-degree mornings, but we haven't had too much of the 30s. So that's a good thing for overnight temperature recovery. So that's water temperature. Come here, girl. Come here. Come here. That's water temperature, water clarity. Lake level, actually, has already started to drop a little bit. It went from 1.2 last week to 1.1 this week. So we dropped about 1/10 of a foot, which isn't significant, but let's just what it is. From this point forward, with no rain, the lake's going to continue to drop until the bottom drops out. So activities upcoming this week, there's really nothing major going on, with the exception of expect to see a lot of next week's tournament anglers showing up this weekend and start fishing, doing some pre-fishing. There's no off limits. We've talked about it, and I beat this thing to death, but consider yourselves forewarned. There's going to be a bunch of people here fishing, and it's going to start pretty heavily come Saturday. So from this point through next weekend, just have your really best manners on if you decide to come and fish. Okay, let's talk about fishing a little bit. Interesting thing, for the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time running around out here with side finding with my hummingbirds and just, looking for stuff, and I'll go idle up, miles of banks just looking for new stuff that I've overlooked before. Sometimes just getting a better view of something that I saw before. And for the last couple of years, I have seen tons and tons of beds. And I mean bunches of beds. Didn't count them, but you would just go into areas and, you'd think under normal water circumstances, you'd go, wow, those are out in 8, 9 feet of water. Some of them 10. I wonder what's really out there. What kind of fish is out there? It obviously is not bass. They're too grouped up and they're just out in the open. So, and I always kind of contributed it to maybe red ears or something like that. This week, I can confirm that nope, those have been crappie. There's a lot of areas just on the upper end of the lake that I've been on, and boy, I tell you what, if the water's clear enough from 3 feet to 5 feet, 5.5 feet, There are crappie beds all over the place. Seen them in Lakeport, seen them over on the state park side. I've seen them over in Nice, seen them in Lucerne. There are crappie beds everywhere with crappie in them. I have not spent a ton of time looking, and the little bit of time that I've actually spent looking at beds, just trying to see if I could sight fish, there is a bass bed here and there. I haven't seen any big numbers, but honestly, I'm not really looking for those yet. I would normally be, but my bite's been pretty consistent with what I've been doing. So crappie are alive and well at Clear Lake. Bass fishing, since last week's report, we pretty much are sticking around 20 fish a day. We had a 30 fish day, we had a 15 fish day, but as far as an average, we're in that 20 fish realm still, and fairly consistently. Still hanging in there with 20 to 22. I think day before yesterday, I think we had a 23-pound bag, 23 and a half. We're catching, it's kind of a smorgasbord of baits, but we're catching fish on rip baits, plastics. We caught some Cinco fish, we caught some drop shot fish, we caught some shaky head fish. What else did we catch fish on this week? Some swim bait fish, some underspin fish. So, a real assortment of baits. Almost all the fish that we've been catching are in the 4.5 to 6 foot range, 6.5 foot range, somewhere there. So what we saw the last couple days compared to the latter part of last week is, instead of catching a lot of bucks, we're starting to catch more females. I'm not a biologist, so I can't formally tell the difference between the two, so I assume a skinny fish right now is probably a buck, and a fat fish with two big bulges in the bottom more than likely are females. Also interesting, some of those females that we've caught have actually come up with mud on their bellies, between their pectoral fins and their anal fin. No signs of their fins being messed up. The fish were just apparently just sitting down there on the bottom. So I think a lot of the ripbait fish that we've caught, that's exactly what's been happening, is the fish have just been on the bottom, sitting on a little patch of weeds or something, and they've just come up. So, I just remembered we did catch a jig fish last week. So the conditions are good. The fishing is consistent. I have not been able to fish down on the bottom part of the lake that much, because just like today, we went down there and honestly, it was just too windy to fish. We fished a couple little areas, caught fish in those areas, but about the only place that you could really go and try to get out of the wind was behind Fraser Point, and back in Canoctai Bay, and there was a handful of boats back in there already, so I just didn't want to play that game. So we didn't get to stay down there very long. So I've had some people ask about getting into Rodman, and honestly, I'm not 100% sure. Somebody, one of the locals from Clear Lake Oaks, I asked him a question about getting into the Keys, and apparently there's a couple feet of water in the Keys, the entrance canal going in there. So the old horseshoe part of the Keys, not so much. It's only about 1 to 1.5 foot deep, according to him. But getting in the main canal, you've got about 2.5 to 3 feet, and then in the deeper portion of the Keys, maybe 4.5 to 5.5 feet, depending on how it lays out. So that's the information I can give you. Look for Lakeport to be busy this week. I will do my best. I'm going to be out one day next week, because I've taken the whole week off to be able to avoid this tournament. But one of my local clients wanted to get out, so the day that they have the check-in and all that stuff, we're going to get out. So I'll probably shoot a report a day early, which will probably be Tuesday this next week, to post it as normal on Thursday. So I think that's it. I've mumbled enough. My guy Larry's laying up there on the front deck on his back. My dog is sitting up in the front part of the boat panting like nobody's business. So, and I'm hungry, so I think it's time to go home. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good one, and whatever you decide to do next week, good luck and display a lot of patience. Thanks, y'all.